Hi Reddit, I really need some advice because I feel completely lost about what to do in my current situation. I've been holding this in for so long, and I just need to get it all out. I'm 35 years old and have been with my girlfriend Kylie, 29F, for almost 10 years now. We met when she was working as a waitress at a local diner where I used to grab breakfast before heading to my construction job. She was different back then, full of life, ambitious, and had this contagious laugh that could light up the whole room. We clicked instantly and started dating within weeks. Everything moved pretty fast after that. She moved in with me 6 months later when her roommate situation went bad, and we've been living together ever since. The first few years were amazing. We traveled when we could afford it, spent weekends exploring the city, and had all these plans for our future. We talked about marriage, but we both agreed we wanted to be financially stable first. Then came Luna, our beautiful daughter who's now 4 years old. The pregnancy wasn't planned, but it was the best surprise of my life. Kylie had some struggles with postpartum depression, but I thought we'd work through that together. Looking back, maybe that's when things started to change. Recently, we bought a house together, or rather, I agreed to get the mortgage in her name. It wasn't what I wanted, but we'd been fighting so much that I thought maybe this would make her happy, give her some security. The house is nice, nothing fancy, but it's in a good school district for Luna and has a backyard where she can play. I took on extra shifts at work to afford it, which only led to more problems. You see, nothing I do seems good enough for Kylie anymore. If I work overtime to save more money, she accuses me of avoiding her and claims I'm never there for Luna. When I cut back on hours to spend more time at home, she gets angry that we're not saving enough and says I'm not ambitious enough. It's exhausting. Even small decisions become huge arguments. If I buy groceries, she complains I got the wrong brands. If I take Luna to the park, she says I should have taken her to the library instead. There's no winning. But the real problem that's destroying our relationship is Kylie's gambling addiction. It started about 4 to 5 years ago, right after Luna was born. At first, it was just scratch tickets and small bets on sports games. I didn't think much of it then, everyone needs a hobby, right? But over time, it escalated to online poker and casino games. The amounts kept getting bigger, and the frequency increased to where she was gambling almost every day. I've caught her multiple times hiding losses from me. She'll delete browser history, create secret email accounts for gambling sites, and even hide physical receipts from casino visits in her car. Every time I confront her about it, we end up in this cycle. She cries, promises to stop, says she'll get help, and for a few days or weeks things seem better. Then I'll discover more money missing from our joint account or find new credit card charges from gambling sites. Last month was the final straw. I discovered she had somehow maxed out a credit card I didn't even know existed, $8,000 in gambling debts that she'd been hiding. When I confronted her, instead of apologizing, she turned it around on me. She said I was being controlling, that she needed her own money to spend how she wanted, and that I was suffocating her with my rules about money. She even brought Luna into it, saying that my strict budgeting was preventing her from buying things for our daughter. The whole situation has me constantly on edge. I have to watch every word I say, every move I make, because I never know what might trigger an argument. She's become an expert at twisting my words and making me feel like I'm the problem. Meanwhile, she seems completely indifferent to how her actions affect our family. She'll sit on the couch for hours, gambling on her phone while Luna begs for attention. Then she'll turn around and criticize my parenting, saying I'm not involved enough. What really breaks my heart is seeing how this affects Luna. She's such a bright, sensitive child, and I can tell she picks up on the tension. The other day, she asked me why mommy is always angry and why she doesn't want to play with her anymore. That hit me hard. Kylie used to be such an attentive mother, but now she barely looks up from her phone when Luna talks to her. I honestly can't stand being in this relationship anymore. The constant fighting, the lying about money, the emotional manipulation, it's all taking a huge toll on my mental health. I find myself volunteering for extra shifts just to avoid coming home, which only leads to more arguments about me being absent. I've started having anxiety attacks at work, something I've never experienced before. But here's where I'm really stuck. I can't imagine going even a single day without seeing Luna. She's my whole world. Every morning, I wake her up with silly songs. Every night, I read her stories and tuck her in. When she scrapes her knee or has a bad dream, I'm the one she runs to. The thought of not being there for those moments kills me. I know that if I leave, Luna will likely stay with Kylie because we're not married and mothers typically get primary custody. I don't think I even have any legal right to file for custody since we never got married. I've talked to a few friends about this, and most of them say I should stay for Luna's sake. They argue that having both parents at home, even in a bad relationship, is better than splitting up. But I'm starting to think that might not be true. What kind of example am I setting for Luna by staying in this toxic situation? I don't want her growing up thinking it's normal for relationships to be full of fighting and manipulation. I don't want her to think it's okay for someone to treat her the way Kylie treats me. I'm mentally exhausted from trying to keep this relationship together while also protecting our finances and being a good father. I feel like I'm failing at everything despite trying my hardest. I need advice on what to do next. How do I protect my relationship with Luna while also protecting my own mental health? Is there any way I can get custody or at least ensure I'll have regular access to my daughter if I leave? Has anyone been in a similar situation who can tell me what worked for them? Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. Your advice and support helped me see things more clearly, even though the situation has taken an unexpected turn that I never saw coming. These past 2 weeks have been a roller coaster of emotions and revelations. The most concerning change has been in Kylie's behavior toward Luna. She's always had her ups and downs as a mother, but lately, it's like she's completely checked out of parenting. She barely acknowledges Luna's presence unless she absolutely has to. Last week, Luna drew a picture at preschool, a family portrait with all 3 of us. She was so excited to show it to Kylie, but when she tried to share it, Kylie just mumbled something about being busy and walked away. I found Luna later, crying in her room, crumpling up the drawing she'd worked so hard on. It took everything in me not to confront Kylie right then and there. Instead, I spent the evening with Luna, helping her make a new drawing that we hung on the fridge. She smiled again, but I could tell she was hurt. At first, I thought maybe Kylie was depressed or struggling more with her gambling addiction. I tried multiple times to talk to her about it. I even suggested we could look into getting her help, but she kept brushing me off with excuses about being late for work or having other commitments. That's when I started paying more attention to her work situation. About a month ago, Kylie started working at this upscale restaurant downtown called the Copper Pot. She said the tips were good and it would help us catch up on bills, especially after the gambling debts she'd racked up. The job seemed like a positive step. She was getting out of the house, earning money, and seemed more energetic. But then things started getting weird. Her schedule was all over the place. She'd tell me she was working the lunch shift but wouldn't come home until after midnight. When I'd ask about it, she'd claim they were short-staffed or she had to help with inventory. Other times, she'd say she picked up an extra shift, but when I called the restaurant once to check on her, they said she'd left hours ago. We hired Darcy, 24F, to watch Luna during the times when both Kylie and I were working. Darcy is the younger sister of Kylie's best friend Sarah, and she's been absolutely wonderful with Luna. She's studying early childhood education and really engages with Luna, doing art projects, reading stories, and even helping her learn basic numbers and letters. Luna adores her, which has been a blessing given how distant Kylie has become. Yesterday, Darcy came to me after Kylie had left for what was supposed to be a morning shift. She looked nervous and kept fidgeting with her phone. Finally, she showed me some text messages she'd accidentally seen on Kylie's phone when it was left unlocked on the counter. The messages were between Kylie and someone named Daniel, who apparently works as a bartender at the Copper Pot. The texts revealed that Kylie hadn't been picking up extra shifts at all. She'd been meeting Daniel during her supposed work hours. Darcy also mentioned overhearing multiple phone conversations between them while she was watching Luna. She said the way they talked seemed very intimate, and she'd heard Kylie laughing in a way I haven't heard in years. What really got to me was that Darcy had seen them together a few times when Kylie was supposed to be at work. She'd taken Luna to the park near the restaurant one afternoon, and spotted Kylie and Daniel having lunch at a cafe across the street. Another time, she saw them walking together at the mall when Kylie had claimed to be covering someone's evening shift. I waited until Luna was asleep that night before confronting Kylie. Her reaction was not what I expected at all. Instead of addressing the Daniel situation or even trying to deny it, she turned the whole thing around on me. She accused me of having an affair with Darcy, claiming that was the real reason I insisted on hiring her as our babysitter. She went on this wild rant about how she'd seen the way Darcy and I interact, how I'm always praising Darcy's way with Luna, and how suspicious it is that I always handle paying Darcy myself. The truth is, I handle the payments because Kylie has a history of gambling away money meant for bills and other expenses. But according to her, this was proof of my supposed relationship with Darcy. The accusation was so absurd it actually made me laugh, which only made Kylie angrier. She started bringing up random incidents as evidence, like the time I helped Darcy jumpstart her car, or how I once bought her lunch as a thank you for staying late with Luna when I got stuck in traffic. Normal, decent things that any employer would do for a reliable babysitter. That conversation was the final straw for me. Looking at Kylie as she threw these wild accusations at me, I realized I didn't even recognize the person she'd become. The house is in her name, so I told her she needs to take responsibility for the mortgage payments from now on. I also made it clear that while I'll always be there for Luna and continue supporting her financially, I can't live with someone who would make up lies about me to cover their own infidelity. The look of shock on her face when she realized I was serious about leaving was almost comical. It was like she never expected me to actually stand up for myself. She tried to backtrack, claiming she was just stressed and didn't mean what she said about Darcy, but I'd already made up my mind. I've started looking for apartments nearby. I want to stay close enough that I can still see Luna regularly and be involved in her daily life. It's not the ideal situation, but I can't keep living in this toxic environment. The hardest part will be explaining to Luna why Daddy won't be living at home anymore, but I truly believe it's better than having her grow up thinking this kind of dysfunction is normal. Update 2: I need to share what happened because I still can't fully process it. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, everything changed dramatically in a single day. I was at my construction site, working on the second floor of a new building, when my phone started buzzing repeatedly. Usually, I don't answer during work hours unless it's an emergency, but when I saw multiple missed calls from Darcy, my heart sank. When I finally called back, Darcy was almost hysterical. Through her sobs, she managed to tell me that she'd arrived at our house for her regular babysitting shift at 9 a.m., only to find Luna alone. The front door was unlocked, no sign of Kylie anywhere, and Luna was just sitting on the couch in her pajamas watching cartoons. I've never left a job site so fast in my life. My supervisor took one look at my face and just nodded when I said it was a family emergency. The 15-minute drive home felt like hours. When I got there, Luna ran to me like nothing was wrong, telling me about the cartoon she was watching. She said mommy had told her to be good and watch TV until Darcy came. She didn't seem scared or upset. She had no idea that being left alone like that wasn't normal. The kitchen was a mess, with half-empty cereal boxes and milk left out on the counter. Upstairs, Kylie's closet was mostly empty, and her dresser drawers were pulled out with whatever remained scattered across the floor. On the kitchen counter, I found a note scrawled on the back of a gas station receipt. I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving with Daniel. Being a mother isn't what I thought it would be. Don't try to find me. I checked our joint bank account on my phone, completely emptied. She'd taken all $3,800 we had saved. Thankfully, I'd moved most of our savings to a separate account after the gambling incidents, but it still hurt to see she'd taken what little was left. My first call was to CPS. I knew I needed to report this properly to protect Luna and myself. The CPS worker, Mrs. Rodriguez, came to the house that afternoon. She was surprisingly understanding when I explained the whole situation, the gambling, the affair with Daniel, and now the abandonment. Being Luna's biological father and having proof of stable employment and active involvement in her life worked strongly in my favor. After conducting their necessary checks and interviews, including talking to Luna's preschool teachers and our neighbors, they granted me emergency custody. The house situation was a mess at first. Kylie had already missed 2 mortgage payments without telling me, and I was worried we'd lose the house. But surprisingly, this turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Given that Kylie had abandoned both the property and her child, our lawyer was able to work with the bank to transfer the house into a trust with Luna as the beneficiary. She'll inherit it when she turns 18, and until then, I can continue living there with her as her guardian. The bank even worked with us to modify the loan terms to make it more manageable on my single income. The most challenging part was trying to explain the situation to Luna in a way that wouldn't traumatize her. How do you tell a 4-year-old that her mother chose a man she barely knew over her own child? I tried to keep it age appropriate, saying that mommy needed to go away for a while to figure some things out, but that daddy would always be here no matter what. Luna was confused at first, asking if mommy was mad at her, which broke my heart. I made sure she knew none of this was her fault. To my surprise, Luna has adjusted remarkably well to our new routine. Kids really are resilient. She still occasionally asks about her mom, especially at bedtime or when she sees other kids with their mothers at the park, but these moments are becoming less frequent. We've established new routines. I rearranged my work schedule to be home for dinner every night, and we have special daddy-daughter time on weekends. Darcy has been an absolute godsend through all of this. She's not only continued to watch Luna when I'm at work but has also been helping Luna process everything in her own way. She's good at redirecting Luna when she gets sad about her mom, and she's helped maintain a sense of normalcy in Luna's life. Most of Kylie's friends and family have distanced themselves from us, seemingly embarrassed by her actions, but Darcy has stuck by us. The police tried to track Kylie down because technically, what she did was child abandonment, but they haven't had any luck. Apparently, Daniel quit his job at the Copper Pot the same day, and neither of them has been seen since. Part of me hopes they never find them. I don't want Luna to have to deal with the instability of Kylie potentially coming in and out of her life. Update 3. I wasn't planning on posting another update, but something happened recently that I felt I needed to share. It has been 2.5 years of complete silence, that Kylie showed up at our door on a Sunday morning while Luna was at her weekly dance class. The woman standing on our porch was barely recognizable as the Kylie I once knew. Her clothes were worn and mismatched, her hair was unkempt, and she had this desperate, haunted look in her eyes. She'd lost a lot of weight, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking as she stood there. The years clearly hadn't been kind to her. Through tears, she told me her story. Things with Daniel had fallen apart within 6 months. He'd turned out to be just as much of a gambler as she was, and they'd burned through all the money she'd taken from our account in just a few weeks. After Daniel left her for someone else, she'd bounced between different relationships and jobs, never staying in one place for too long. She'd even spent some time living in her car. She said she'd been following our lives through social media. My sister had apparently been accepting her friend requests from various fake accounts she'd created. That's how she knew Luna had started taking dance classes, was doing well in school, and had recently won a ribbon at her first grade science fair. Kylie broke down completely when she saw Luna's school picture on the wall in our living room, saying she couldn't believe how much our little girl had grown. Now she wanted to come back. She claimed she'd changed, that she'd hit rock bottom and realized what was truly important in life. She said she'd been clean from gambling for 6 months and had a steady job as a waitress in a town about an hour away. She begged for another chance to be part of Luna's life. But as I listened to her sob and make promises, all I could think about was that morning 2.5 years ago when she'd left our 4-year-old daughter alone in an unlocked house. I thought about how Luna had cried herself to sleep for weeks, asking what she'd done wrong to make mommy leave. I remembered all the Mother's Day cards Luna had made at school that she couldn't give to anyone, though Darcy always graciously accepted them when Luna offered. I told Kylie about how well Luna was doing now, how she'd made the honor roll, how her dance instructor says she has natural talent, how she's overcome her shyness and made lots of friends at school. I explained that we'd built a stable, happy life, and I wasn't willing to risk disrupting that by letting someone back in who had proven themselves untrustworthy. When Luna came home from dance class that afternoon, spinning around the living room in her leotard, showing me the new moves she'd learned, I sat her down and explained that her mom had come by. Luna's response showed a maturity beyond her 7 years. She said she remembered how mommy used to make daddy sad all the time, and how she left without saying goodbye. Then she told me something that nearly brought me to tears. She said she liked our life better now because we're always happy and she never has to worry about daddy being upset anymore. Luna still has the occasional question about her mom, but they're different now. Instead of why didn't mommy want me? She asks things like, do I look like her? Or was she good at dancing too? I answer these questions honestly but briefly, then we move on to other topics. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too harsh by keeping Kylie away. But then I remember the peace we've found in our life together, the stability Luna now enjoys, and the trust we've built between us. Sometimes the best ending isn't about forgiveness or second chances, it's about protecting what you've worked so hard to build. After Kylie left that day, I blocked all her known phone numbers and social media accounts. I also informed Luna's school and dance studio that only I or Darcy are authorized to pick her up. It might seem cold, but I've learned that sometimes being a good parent means making difficult decisions to protect your child's well-being, even if those decisions hurt someone else. Luna and I have built a happy life together. We have our routines, Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday dance classes, bedtime stories every night. It's not the family life I imagined when Luna was born, but it's peaceful, stable, and full of love. Sometimes that's more than enough.